able to meet here. It costs about $60,000 a month to pay salaries, facility, utilities, just all the things it costs to run a church. So, and we were doing pretty good probably until the virus hit. But we weren't, we've been looking at another building and seeing what's a good fit for us. And a lot of things have changed, obviously, in the last 6 months. There's a lot of people leaving the state. We've lost a lot of members that are actually core people in the church and very much involved in the music program, very much involved with the leadership of the church. And it seems to be a trend. We don't know what's going to happen when it comes to stuff like that. But, people come and go, and churches deal with that all the time. That's really not the big concern. It has affected our income, but more so than people leaving is the coronavirus. It's kind of like now we look at the bills every month and we don't know if we're going to have 30,000 coming in or 70,000, depending on what the activities are. We have some pretty faithful people, but when you have this kind of a disruption from the coronavirus, the giving fluctuates. And so we've been looking at this building for 2 years, but we started looking at it pretty serious to see if it was a good fit for us. We're really not in jeopardy. I don't know if most people realize we carry enough reserves. We could ride this thing out, but we would be in the red every month for the next 2 years if we extended this lease. I don't see no way around. I don't have any certainty in what this virus is going to do and how the country is going to manage it. So with that in mind, that is probably the biggest problem, is that we would be in the red for some unknown length of time. And that's probably what really makes it our responsibility to look for other options. So obviously, if we move to this other building, the lease is only $10,000 a month. Our utilities probably run about $2,400 a month. We have 17 air conditioners that all require maintenance, and that's a separate cost. That doesn't really count with the facility. This other facility only has 4. It's a smaller footprint. We're committed to making it work for us. It won't seat 400 like this place will. I think it's a stretch right now to seat 220, but with the virus, I don't think it's going to be a problem. And as things move forward, and if things get better, we'll make adjustments. We'll make it work. But that's probably the biggest thing, is going, what is a good fit for us, church, under our current situation, not knowing what the future is? We can trust in God, and that's what Leonard, if he could be here today, he would be questioning our faith. Are we trusting God or trusting ourselves? He would challenge us with that. He does the board all the time. So, but we do have a letter. Tommy's going to come up here and read it in a little bit, so you get Leonard's take on it. I wouldn't say that Leonard is in alignment with the board. I'd say the board's in alignment with Leonard. Leonard's been looking at this building for a long time, but he's like me. It's like, as long as we can afford this building has a lot of potential. But there's 7,000 square feet upstairs we don't even use. We're just now starting to use the footprint now that the other churches left. But it really boils down to the budget. We have a budget. We would like to get our costs down. We don't know what the future is right now, but we think a smaller footprint is very manageable. And so that's what we're encouraging to do. Is Tommy here? There, Tom. Tom's going to read this letter from Leonard, and then we're going to show you a PowerPoint. Most of you don't even know what the building looks like inside. It's already a church. We may have to change a few things, but it's a church. And then I'll explain to you the process afterwards. Tom?
This is from Leonard. It says, "To my dear church family, I have so hoped to be present for this membership meeting, but my surgeon had asked that I self-quarantine 2 weeks before the surgery and 2 weeks after the surgery. Within my surgery, just 2 days away. I can't take a chance that I might catch some bug like I did the last memo that you received announcing the meeting, and it pretty well expresses my convictions about what we need to do. I am really excited about the money we will save each month. We can use those funds to make any improvements on the vineyard facility, plus we can put these resources into our ministry. Please know that the new facility will meet our needs very well. We will feel at home there very quickly. You folks are amazing. Your resilience blesses me and makes me proud to be our pastor. We have not yet occupied all the promised land God has for us. Once again, he is asking us to go forward to accomplish expanding his kingdom. He is asking us to sharpen our focus to reach those that he wants to entrust to us. So I'm asking you to enthusiastically support the proposed lease and move. Let the joy of the Lord be our strength, and never forget, I love you. Pastor Leonard.
Okay, just so you have an idea what it looks like inside, Jim's got some slides back there. He took a bunch of pictures when we saw it last time. And can you go ahead and start running through those, Randy? Okay, this is when you come in one of it. There's two entrances into the sanctuary. You're just coming in one through a hallway. You can see the screen. Personally, I think that screen's a little small. We may want to do something with that, but that's a minor thing. This is the other one. Yeah, there's some better pictures in there, but that is what the sanctuary looks like. You notice how dark it is? That's not what we're accustomed to. We will probably get the lights in there to where we can adjust them and have them bright when we want them bright and dim when we want them dim. I wish we had some little bit better light because it actually, okay, there you go. There's the stage. And it's actually, you know, when you walk into the place, there's color on the walls, not white. So it does have a nice appearance to it. You can't really see the stuff that's on the walls. Yeah, there's a little bit better picture. All right. So what this building has, while you're watching the pictures, it's about 10,000 square feet is what we're going to be leasing. That's about the size of this sanctuary as you're sitting in right now. So when you take a part of it off to the side and put some offices in it, yeah, we're going to be a little bit tighter. But in the future, when we recover from all this stuff, if that's God's will that, you know, this is just a temporary thing or whatever, and we get back, we'll make adjustments. There's another part of this building that could be available in a year, and we might move the offices to that and use the whole building for sanctuary. We have a lot of options. The cost is low enough for us to consider this. There is a little cafe in the sanctuary. I don't know if we really need that. I think we need the seating more, so there may be some changes to that, but seems to be a trend nowadays. A lot of churches are putting little coffee cafes off in the corner of the sanctuary. So I don't know if that's a good fit for us, but it is a nice building. Like I say, it's already been used for a church. We just got to do some work on the lighting, move our audio equipment in, and which kind of, as soon as this thing's over, I'll explain to you how that's going to work. What you're seeing there is from the front. That's kind of like an entryway going into the sanctuary. There's a nice little vestibule. And that's looking at a place where there was some tables in there, and they kind of sat down and they can get coffee in there, and it's off the sanctuary. And, of course, that's the bathroom. All right. Let me know when you're done, Randy. Okay. All right, very good. So what the plan is, if we did this, our lease here ends March 31st. We're wanting to start this lease January 1st. It gives us time to move the offices. We got to set up networks and all that kind of stuff. The rooms we're going to make offices out of right now are just empty rooms. So we got a lot of work to do with that. And then the next step, of course, is get the sanctuary up to speed, what we want to do. And then even after we start having services in there, maybe end of February, we still got to prepare this building to give it back to the owner. which means all the lighting, any changes in here, the lighting got to go back the way they were. Anything we've changed needs to go back the way it was. Most of this lighting is dimmable because we spent a little bit of money on it to make it more functional. We'll take all that with us. We'll take all of our audio equipment. We'll take all the stage stuff and the chairs. So, but for the most part, we think it's going to take that long just to get everything done. And so that's the thing. So the motion that I want to present, and I'll need a second for, is to terminate the lease at 2226 Goodyear Avenue on March 31st, 2021, and lease the property at 1956 Palma Drive starting January 1st, 2021, currently known as the Ventura Vineyard Church. They're not having any services in there right now, so when we take over January 1st, we'll be able to get in there and start making changes. So that's the motion that's on the floor. I need a name for Tommy. You get that, Tommy? You got it? Okay.
We have a secretary taking notes?
Yes, we do.
Good. Well done.
Okay, now, before we vote, is there anybody have any questions? You've kind of seen the building. I hope I've explained what's motivated this. Any questions about anything about this building? Real loud so I can hear you. This is a tilt-up building similar to this, probably not as deep and not as wide, but there's going to be 3 people using this whole building. We're at one end with the sanctuary and all the offices. Then there's a flooring shop. And then there's another area that's about 40 feet wide, full width of the building, that the other church, that the Vineyard Church, wants to continue using. They think they could last about another year under the present situation. And that's the part of the building could be available in a year if we wanted to use that for offices. It's already set up for offices. Maybe we'd know a year from now or whatever whether or not that's something we need. There's really a lot of uncertainty. But no, we're going to be renting part of a building, but it all is all continuous and together. So you come in the front doors, you have access to everything. You don't have to go outside to get anywhere as it is right now. So does that answer your question? Okay.
So there's growth potential.
There's, oh, the lease so far, it's basically renewable every year. The people that have been, now this building was built back in 2000. It's been a church ever since it was built. The gal that owns it, I don't know her, but the guy we've been talking to obviously has been renting this building for 20 years. So we'd be taking over the lease on that part of the building. So the way it's written right now, it just says basically it's an ongoing thing every year to renew. It's a 3% increase unless the cost of living is lower than that. Well, with inflation coming, if that's what's happening, it's going to be 3%. If inflation doesn't happen, it might be less. Is there another question? Yes.
Could you please explain the parking?
Okay, the parking, this is a big parking lot out here, and we're allowed to use a lot of it for Sunday with the exception of the blood bank. Over there's parking in the front, there's parking on the street, there's parking, the strip mall, there's another tilt-up building to the left of us, and all those businesses are closed on Sunday. There's another parking lot across the street, and there's stuff behind this building. So we think the parking situation, I don't know how many cars you think we got here today, maybe 100? Something like that, 90? It shouldn't be a problem. It's just different. It's not all one big parking spot. But we're still going to have the cart, and we're still going to make it happen. If it has private property up, no parking, then you have to do that. But there's also directly across on the other side of Palma, there's a parking lot there that's not used on Sunday. So one of the things we'll probably have to negotiate with them is, like here, we actually have an agreement with the other people that lease from Mike Cromer on how the parking lot works on Sunday.
So the rest of my question that I didn't get out was if there's any sense whether we might have an agreement from the business that is in that building that we can use their parking lot.
We don't.
Sunday, but it sounds like you haven't gone there.
We haven't got that far, but see, it's been a church for 20 years, and they've been meeting on Sunday morning. So I think that's why we really haven't pushed to see the paperwork on what the parking agreement is. But I do know that all the businesses north of that in that little thing is, they're all closed on Sunday. So, go ahead.
You have addressed the parking, but you're also talking about Ventura Vineyard, another church also continuing to use it.
Yeah, they're using the other end of the building. It's about 40 feet by maybe 70. It's offices and a little tiny meeting room in the back. Oh, right now they said they have 20 to 25 people meeting right now. So we're not too concerned about it. Go ahead.
Because the other church is in the, is it gonna affect our time of meeting?
No, it's, we're gonna, right now we're meeting at 10:30. We have a, 9 o'clock, 9:15 Bible study. We'll probably try to stay right on that schedule. So. Right. Right now we're meeting at 10:30. Because the other church left and we had the latitude to change it. When we first came here, we were meeting with another church and they wanted the early service at 9 o'clock. And we needed 45 minutes at least to make the changes on the stage and stuff like that because they do a completely different music arrangement. So when they left, we don't have any restrictions now. So we can basically have a 10:30 service, a 9:15 Bible study, and we've got the whole building to ourselves, and that'll carry with us over there. So that won't change. Anything else? Did I answer the questions good enough? I mean, this is a big deal. This is, obviously Leonard's all for it. It makes sense financially. We have to make it work from my standpoint. But this membership has to vote for it. And it takes 75%. It's a supermajority. Well, if we're going to grow, I mean, I keep saying this. When we started this church, our very first service, there was 238 people here. Just before the virus, there was probably about 210, 215. Largely because people pass away, we get new members, and then people move away. That's a pretty normal thing. But lately, people have been leaving California. It could be a one-year trend. It could be a two-year trend. It's basically on the politics. And the finances. If your income is rental property, this may not be a good fit for you in California. So I understand that. People have to go do what they do. So when people start talking about growth, if you talk to growth to Leonard and Jim, they go, yeah, we're going to grow. I don't know what that growth looks like. Are we going to shrink less? Or I don't know what our needs are. And that's the hardest thing is there's so much uncertainty right now. We don't know what we're going to look like a year from now. God knows, and I know he wants us to stay in business. But we've kind of been struggling with this decision for quite a while, and it seems like right now this is the right fit with all the uncertainty and unknowing. How long do we want to operate in the red, not knowing? Because if we sign this lease with Mike, it'll be for 2 years. It'll be 2 years in the red. But we could do it. It's just, I don't think the board thinks it's smart, and I think Leonard's ready for the move. He's ready for it. Any other questions? I want to give you plenty of opportunity. Okay. Well, I didn't count the stalls, but obviously there is a men and a woman's, and then there's another bathroom that was for the nursery. We don't have much use for a nursery, so we're going to probably change that and have 2 women's bathrooms is what I see us doing. So that's what I see having to happen down the road. The last, no, we don't sign 1-year leases typically. The lease we're in right now is a 3-year lease with 2 2-year options. We're just not going to extend to the second option if this motion passes. We could be here 4 more years, but I don't know if we could afford it. So. Okay. Okay, if you go up to McGrath, next street up, and turn right, go over 2 blocks to Palma. It's right there on your left on the corner, and it's called I think it's called the Ventura Vineyard Church. Oh, that's a good question. If I didn't answer it, it's $10,000, so it's $8,012 less right now. That's a chunk of change. I don't think we're going to renovate it right away, but we are going to change the lighting. So typically, we could spend $10,000 just getting the pianos and everything moved over there and putting some decent lighting in there. So. Yeah, I mean, but you're, like I say, we plan on staying there for a while, just like we plan on staying here for a while, but if your numbers go down and your income goes down, you have to make an adjustment. Go ahead. Did you have a hand back there, George? Well, I gave him a heads up over a month ago to see what his response would be. And so he basically is about as low as he can go. I don't know if you realize this is 27,000 square feet. Obviously, we don't need all that. But it's a real good price. It's only 66 cents a square foot or something. In other words, he's basically not charging us for the upstairs and we don't use it. But it's not worth his time to try to separate the upstairs from this building and create another address. That's what he would have to do for us to stay here. In other words, we could stay here if we just could use the stuff on the bottom floor that we needed. It's very affordable. But it's just not practical. He's not willing to do all that. He would have to put in an elevator for the upstairs. He would have to do a lot of things to bring it up to all the codes. We're not using it right now, so it's not required. So, yeah, we've talked to him, and we were kind of hoping he might say something, but he's basically saying, this building should be going for $27,000 a month if there was a company that needed it just as it was and needed all the floor space. It's $1 a square foot. Yeah, the only part that does have 2 stories, in the part that they're going to keep for a year, there's actually, it's offices in the front half, and there is a second floor, and they're just storing stuff up there. It's like a mezzanine, I think. But otherwise, no, it's a single story. There's no stairs for us. Yes, and we'd have to figure it out whether it's inside or outside. There is a little counter area inside. We just don't know. We need chairs is what we're going to need eventually. Right now, probably not a problem with the virus, but when things get back to normal, we're probably going to take some of that stuff out. There is a place in the lobby and the vestibule in the front where you walk in where you could do stuff like that. So it's very doable. What's that? We own them. We own the chairs. We own part of the stage. We own all the audio equipment, a lot of the lighting, the LED lighting and stuff. It'll all come with us. Well, it's 10,000 square feet. And so instead of, we don't use 17 air conditioners. We use 8 every Sunday, plus a few extras. The office runs probably all the time. But this thing takes 30 tons of refrigeration to keep it comfortable in here in the summer. It spins the meter. It's our biggest utility cost. Just believe it or not, running the air conditioner on Sunday morning was our biggest utility cost. That's how much refrigeration there is. And it also heats it. So we have heat pumps. Heat pumps are really not efficient at heating. You get by with it in a climate like this where we're next to the coast. The other building has gas heating. It'll be more efficient. I expect utility savings also. So it's just not the $8,000 a month we're saving. There's going to be some other savings also. Anything else? Go ahead, Robert. I can't hear you. We don't own the projectors and the screens. We don't even own the big one here and the big screen. We would probably go to a single screen system. That's what you've seen over there, but it's very small. I think we're going to want something bigger. We've made an offer to buy this projector and that big screen that's right above my head. We think that'd be a better fit for us. Does that answer your question, Robert? I mean, that stays here. Anything permanently attached to this building has to stay. That's just kind of the way leases work. Go ahead. Oh, yes. What it is, the renewal would be with a 3% increase. Well, there's a cap of 3%. It's a cost of living, and I can't remember what index it's looking at. Maybe some of you guys that do real estate know what index they look at usually. But there's a cap of 3%. So, but it's an ongoing lease. Like I say, they've been there 20 years, and I think this is very simple. This is not a typical real estate lease that we're used to. We had to give it to an attorney. And so we're still talking about some of the issues in it, but it's real close. We are used to a triple net lease. In a triple net lease, you have a square footage for the use of the building, and then you have some common areas and expenses like property taxes that you have to pay, and they come out of the triple net part. And when they raise your lease, they only raise the square footage part. So this one is 50 cents. After a year, it was 51.5 cents. It went up 1.5 cents a square foot. Not a big deal, about $400 or $500 per month. But this lease is not like that. There's no triple net. It's just a flat 10,000. So, but we still have all the utilities and expenses.
So we're going to be paying rent on both facilities for 2 months?
Probably 3 months.
3 months.
Yes. It takes that long to move everything. And then, like I say, once we get over there and having services, we got to pull everything out of here that's ours that we want to take with us and put it back the way it was. So it's just, for me, it's a lot of work. It'd be a lot easier to stay here. But the reality is, it just doesn't make much sense to me to run in the red for some unknown period of time. It just doesn't make sense. And I think that's what's pushing it for me. Leonard's already kind of accepted this. I think he would have liked to stay here. I know Jim would have liked to stay here. It's the finances. It really is. And what is the most prudent thing to do with God's money? So, any other questions? Go ahead. I think we would have services in there towards the end of February. So this building would be vacant for a month while we're pulling things out that we didn't need over there, but we're taking with us and get the lighting back the way it was. And landlord has to do a walkthrough and everything has to be hunky-dory, and then we're free and clear after that. So I just don't want to try to do it all in 1 month. I would be a very busy guy. I just don't think I could physically do it. We're going to have, the biggest thing is right now, our budget is about $30,000 in the red, just staying here, even if the coronavirus didn't hit. And we did that because we had to hire an associate pastor, and we had to find a way to move forward. But the idea was the church would grow, and we didn't know people would start leaving California. We didn't know the coronavirus is happening. This is going to allow us to put us back in the black, is what it's going to allow us to do, which I think is smart. Go ahead. Yes, there's I can't remember, it was a substantial, I think it was $10,000 deposit. Like I say, so when we turn this building back over to them, if everything's right, then we get our deposit back. Does that make sense? Yeah. And he's already done a walkthrough upstairs, and we've got a list of things to do, and there's some people that want to help, so.
Mike, there was a sister here first.
Okay. They're subleasing from us, and so we're responsible for this building. And that's something we're going to deal with them. I mean, we are going to, some of the stuff they've done is costing us money to put back. But we can't just walk away from it and tell them to do it. We're basically responsible because they're subleasing from us, even though they are bound by the same agreement that we are with Mike Cromer. So that's something I'm going to let the ministry deal with that, with Leonard and their pastor, and figure out how we're going to do all that. But one way or the other, this building has to be restored. So, anything else? Go ahead. Are we going to do what? my intent the first year is to leave everything the way it is and use the building and see what happens with the virus and see what happens with our membership and see what happens where we are a year from now. At some point, like I say, right now, we don't know how long this will last, but I think at some point we will have a better idea of what it's going to be like a year from now, and we can start making plans then. Right now, I would tell you with any certainty what it's going to be like a year from now, as far as everything. There's a lot of political stuff going on, and California is not excluded, that's for sure. So, any other questions, anything I could answer? The board is kind of, go ahead. The way I've read it, it doesn't really say it's 1 year. That's one of the things our attorney's trying to nail down with them. It's like, it just renews every year, but it doesn't say for how long. So our attorney has 7 items out of our lease that he wants to talk with Doug about, and that's what's probably going to happen. We'll get answers. If it changes drastically, we'd have to, if we decide not, if you vote to go there now and then something happens with that lease and we don't like the way it ends up, we'd have to bring you back in here and figure out where to go from there. But as it stands right now, I think everything can be dealt with. They're reasonable questions. That's why we have the attorney look at it. He has a lot more experience with these property leases than we do. Anything else? We can. I just want to make sure if anybody has questions, boy, now's the time to answer it. We'll be one church in our part of the building. We won't have to be dancing around other people's activities, and they won't have to dance around ours. Which means whatever rooms are available for classrooms and the sanctuary and stuff, we can do whatever schedule we want. But I leave that up to the ministry. I don't have anything to do with that. The one thing this building does that one won't, if we wanted to have a dinner here with 230 people, we could do it. Over there, you wouldn't be able to do it. And we've already decided with the money we're saving, if there was like a Christmas dinner and maybe something else during the year, 4th of July or something, and we wanted to have a big dinner, we would probably just rent the facility. It would be cheaper and go have it somewhere, whether it be the Poinsettia Pavilion or whatever. We'd go rent a place and just do it. But we can't, a lot of the lunches we used to have that were smaller groups, we could do that there. We can move all those chairs around, put tables in there and have a luncheon. And like we used to do every month, we used to have either a luncheon or a dinner. We can do that. It's just the big dinners with 230, 300, that's probably going to have to be, we just rent a facility once or twice a year. Mainly Christmas, I think, is when we used to really do that. That's how I see us handling that, and Leonard's on board with that. He's already kind of warmed up to the idea. He thinks that's the way to go. Anything else? Go ahead. Anytime you modify a leased building, you just have to get permission from the landlord. They want to know what you're doing, and rightly so. It's their building. And so, yeah, but we've already, we've kind of talked to Doug, and it's like if we decide the sanctuary just has to be bigger because we pull out of this thing and we just need more room, it's just a big tall wall that we got to take out and then build the next wall taller. And if that's the direction we're going, by that time maybe we'd have the other building for offices, or we have to figure out something else for offices. But it's a very doable thing. A lot of questions because you guys haven't seen it. I've been over there probably 4 times. Yeah.
To undergird you and the board with your concern to live within our means. The Lord gives us a parable in the Gospels. He tells, if you are planning to build a building, first make sure you have the means. To live within our means is right. And I want to encourage the board, this is the right
Yeah, there's different, philosophies. A lot of people on the board are like, no, we have to have a zero budget every year. We can't spend any money. We got to spend what we bring in and no more and stuff. But the fact is, we do have a reserve account, and it's there. It's not there to just sit there. It's there for when these weird times come and you get this uncertainty. It gives us. We're not worried about the money. The church board, we're not worried. We're not in any kind of jeopardy right now. We're trying to make a good decision on what's going to happen in the future based on what we know, and should we look for another building? And the answer we came up with is yes. Could God change all that? You bet. But it's funny to me is that this building became available right about the time we were wondering, what was going on. So God provided this place. When we were looking for a building and nobody wanted to help us, he provided this place. And a church that was willing to let us come for the right price. And it wasn't a problem. And then we took over the lease because of the situation with the other church. And it hasn't been a problem. And at the beginning, we have been blessed. Our costs were down so much the first 2 years because we didn't have enough full-time staff. We saved a lot of money. We didn't spend every dollar came over the threshold. We had a kind of a guideline of what we're going to spend money on and what we're going to do, and everything else just went in reserves. So we have enough reserves to ride this out. What's the smart thing to do? What do you think God wants us to do? Leonard's pretty much convinced it's that building. My leadership commitment to the church is basically, I really do listen to Leonard. People don't come to this church because I'm the chairman of the board. I know that for a fact. We look to Leonard for what he thinks, right? And so I'm inclined to try to make this board line up with what the ministry of this church is and what the vision for this church is. That's how I see things. So I don't have an independent, I don't find myself in disagreement with Leonard because I think he provides the vision for this church and where we should go. I try to align myself with that. That's my job. And make sure we're not doing anything that breaks the laws or doing anything illegal. And make sure that we have that the funding is, that we're not in jeopardy. And we're not. So I want you to be very clear. We are not in financial jeopardy at all. We have a lot of latitude.
May I read 3 verses, that's all.
Okay.
Luke 14:28 and following. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. I think it is biblical to live within our means and to make wise, careful choices.
Thank you very much, Roland. Now, Clarence called for the question. If there's not any other questions, I want to go ahead and do that. Any other questions? Okay.
You said it holds about 220.
Right.
How can we have the 6-foot spacing?
It's a little bit different configuration in this, but I think, we're committed to doing that. If we have to have 2 services, we'll have 2 services. We've already done it. In other words, if this building's a good fit for us, it's what we can afford within our budget in these uncertain times, we're going to make it work.
I volunteer for the late service.
Okay. All right, anything else? Because here's how this is going to work. Believe it or not, we have 2 people going to count hands. And it's a 75% supermajority. It's not just a simple majority. So just please leave your hands up. And we have 2 people counting, 1 on each side. And I have a feeling that right there is the break. So I'm going to read the motion again. It says to terminate the lease at 2226 Goodyear Avenue on March 31st, 2021, and lease the property at 1956 Palma Drive starting January 1st, 2021, currently known as Ventura Vineyard Church. So all in favor, just raise your hands and allow people to go ahead and count. And I'm sorry it takes so long. Well, we're going to count it because it is a supermajority and we need numbers. So we need to know for a fact for the minutes that this is legit. And so Doug and Dave, if you'd let me know as soon as you got it all. So that's, okay. And how many is here? Okay, well, that's okay. Those are the numbers, and I do believe if I did the math real quick, that's more than the 75%. So I'm going to end the meeting with this. If anything changes, I mean, we're very transparent. If anything should change and we can't get this leased the way I presented it to you, if we can't get them finalized, we'll be coming back to you. So, but otherwise, this will be our new home, and I'll just pray that everything goes well, and that whatever God's will is for this church, whatever He really has planned, for the leadership, for the membership, for everything, that it be within God's will, and that we know what that is. Because I think that's what we're really trying to accomplish. I know that's what Leonard's trying to do. So. Huh? Okay, over 90%. Well, I think Leonard will be very happy with that. Let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, the big issues in life are within your knowledge. We never really know what to do unless we pray about it and trust in you. The big decisions, the uncertain things, we 100% trust you and how you lead this church. So we just give thanks for everything you do. We pray that you guide this whole process and just move through the hearts and minds of people and make it work out for us, and so that we can continue this ministry. And we just say this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, we won't be able to take over the building. Is this still on, Mason? We won't be able to take over the building until January 1st. Yeah, so after that, we'll have the keys and we'll have free run of the property. If you come by, if somebody gives a tour or invites people to come down, you'll probably see me in there getting the offices set up. It does take a while to build a network and figure out where everything's going to go. And then I'll work on the sanctuary, and I got helpers, and we'll make it happen. All right.